What's up, Willowbrook? Today we're in Matthew chapter 26, and there is so much in this chapter. So for the sake of brevity, I just want to focus on the Garden of Gethsemane, but more specifically, verse 41. But let me set the stage first before we look at verse 41. Jesus knows that he's about to go to the cross, and he's going to die for the sins of the world. So he goes to the garden, he brings the disciples, and he tells them to watch, and he goes and prays and tells God, let your will be done over my own will. And when he comes back, he finds the disciples asleep. This is what he says in verse 41. He tells them, watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. He says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So what is Jesus saying here? I remember hearing this growing up and thinking, what does that actually mean? So I want to start at the end of verse 41 and kind of work our way back. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. I think what Jesus is saying here is he's acknowledging that our spirit, our souls, our minds oftentimes want to do the right thing. If you remember right before this, when Jesus predicts that Peter will deny him, Peter declares, even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you. And it says all the other disciples said the same. They wanted to do the right thing, but here they are in the garden and they can't even stay awake and pray. So Jesus is saying your spirit on the inside is willing. It's eager. It's ready to do the right thing. But your flesh, our bodies are weak. Think about how many times throughout the day we're told by our bodies that how weak our bodies really are. I'm hungry. I'm tired. Maybe if you're older, I'm sore because I slept the wrong way or got up weird or something. Our bodies are constantly bombarding us, telling us all these messages, reminding us that our bodies are weak. So in this verse, Jesus is acknowledging to the disciples and to us today that we want to do the right thing, but oftentimes we don't. It reminds me of what Paul said, how Paul said, the things that I want to do, I don't do. And the things that I don't want to do, I do. Jesus is saying that here as well. Our spirits are willing, but our flesh is weak. And then he says, how do we really combat this temptation that maybe we could fall into because our bodies are so weak? It's so easy for us to fall into temptation. He says two things, watch and pray. And that word watch means essentially to be alert, to be vigilant. Think of it as someone that's keeping watch at night. Whenever you're watching at night, you have to be even more alert because it's harder to see things around you, right? You can't just look around and not pay much attention. No, you have to really be intentional about how you're keeping an eye out on what's happening around you. So Jesus is instructing the disciples in this passage and us today to be alert, to be vigilant. And then he says to pray. So don't just watch, but also go to God in prayer. And I think it's interesting that Jesus doesn't say this and not live it out himself, but he actually gives us an example of this in this passage. He's doing this very thing. Remember, Jesus was fully God, but also fully man. So we see Jesus wrestling with his flesh, with his weak flesh in verse 39 as he prays to God. If it's possible, may this cup be taken from me. Jesus is saying to God, I know the plan. This is what I signed up for. This is what I came here to do, but my body does not want to go through this pain. But he says, let your will be done. See, Jesus was alert. He was watching. And when he saw that temptation, when he saw his body wanting to do the opposite of what his spirit wanted to do, he went to God in prayer. And that's what Jesus is calling us to do today as well, and every single day. To keep watch, to be alert, to be vigilant. So the moment we see temptation right in front of us, we can go to God in prayer and ask him to help us. And the scripture says that God won't allow us to be tempted more than we can bear, but he will provide a way for us to escape that temptation. So today, don't walk through the day with your eyes closed, not paying attention. Let me encourage you to stay awake, stay vigilant, stay alert, and go to God in prayer the moment you see temptation coming your way so that he will provide a way for you to escape. Because the spirit's willing, but the flesh is weak. I pray that God blesses you today.